If you're a high achiever, you're probably no stranger to always feeling like you're on the go or kind of just knowing what it feels like to hit one accomplishment and then immediately be like, okay, time for the next. Because that was definitely me. And I wanted to do this video, and this is kind of like a little cozy little chit chat video. Maybe I'll give these types of things a name. I don't know. But one of my clients over the weekend or this past week asked me a question, and I want to read it to you. Says, hey Sephora, with all of your academic, professional, and life accomplishments, how do you continue to properly celebrate yourself, especially when your successes were always a part of the plan? And oh my gosh, like that just hit home because because it was such a great question. And this was something that I really actually thought a lot about when I was in law school, and to an extent even kind of struggled to do when it came to celebrating myself and celebrating my accomplishments. And I think maybe if you're, if your parents are immigrants, or like my parents are from Jamaica, they were born and raised in Jamaica. I'm a first generation American. Or maybe some of you who, maybe you aren't like the first gen American, but maybe you are a first gen in terms of like graduating from college or whatever it may be. But I feel like, at least for me and maybe some of you guys who are watching this video, a lot of the things I've accomplished, not everything, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the things I have accomplished, I kind of did feel like it's expected of me, right? And I didn't read her full question, but that was the main part. And it's that is kind of, like, it was expected that I graduate college. Like that wasn't really like, oh, this huge deal. Like it was, don't get me wrong. I still had my graduation party. We had a good time, but it was still kind of like, this is expected. Like almost like this is the bare minimum for me. It's like, yeah, I'm going to graduate college, like that kind of thing. But then even beyond that, it was getting into Georgetown Law School. It was being editor-in-chief of my journal, my federal clerkships, my big law jobs, like my business, right? And all the milestones that I hit after that were definitely milestones that I intentionally set. But I wanted to talk about this idea or this topic of truly celebrating yourself, because so many of us, me included, do not give ourselves the credit that we should give ourselves for all of our accomplishments. And I responded to her, and I'll read you my response and then I'll talk about it. And I said, I'm always intentional, or I always try to be intentional about celebrating myself. Even if it was a goal I planned to reach, it was definitely difficult at first, but even if it was a simple win, I would go and get drinks or go to dinner or buy myself a little something and acknowledge that this is to celebrate my accomplishment. I'm admittedly not always the best at this, so it definitely takes work and being intentional with moving towards what it is I want to celebrate. Just because it's planned or expected doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to be celebrated. I also have to remind myself to slow down, because frequently I'm like, okay, one thing is accomplished, now it's on to the next. So reminding myself to slow down helps me bask in each accomplishment and also take the time to live more life. And even as I was writing that, I was, that, like I said, this was something that was definitely hitting home for me because I thought about this and I went through this a lot when I was in law school, and really taking the time to celebrate how far you have come. And I wanted to give you guys some suggestions and ideas on how you can do that, on how I started to do that. So in addition to what I just mentioned from what I read in this other things, right, is making sure you keep a journal, keep track of your wins, keep track of your successes, and keep track of things that you have accomplished. So I talked about this in another video that I did, but guys, when I went back to my journal, and I'm looking around because I usually keep it like within the vicinity somewhere because I write in it all the time, and it's over there. I'm not gonna go get it. But when I went back to my journal not too long ago, and I was just kind of flipping through, and I saw a writing, like a journal entry, if you will, from, I want to say from July or August 2023, so over a year now. And in there, I wrote how I will have $30,000 months, right? And I wrote that in 2023, so I wasn't even at my big law job yet. I was still in my clerkship, but yet I wrote that in there, and I wrote out a full plan of how I was going to do that. And fast forward, not even a year later, early 2024, I started hitting $30,000 months in my business. And I didn't even remember that that was intentionally one of my goals, right? The only reason it kind of came back to me was at some point in late 2024, I want to say maybe September or October 2024, when I happened to stumble upon that journal entry again. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like I had set this goal for myself and I achieved it. And I didn't even realize that I had set this goal for myself and I had achieved it, right? And so then purposefully or intentionally taking the time to celebrate how far I have come, right? And so that's what I mean, tracking or keeping track of your progress. Because if you're constantly in this go, 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 which a lot of times we are, a lot of times I am, you don't get the opportunity to really see, the movement, how you're increasing exponentially, or how you're increasing, even if it's not exponentially, how you're increasing slowly. And so taking time or writing things down first and foremost, writing things down and then going back and revisiting it, right? Even if it's, let me revisit this in 3 months, let me revisit this in 6 months, or let me revisit this in a year. Just taking time to acknowledge that, hey, you are seeing progress and you have these goals and you're hitting these goals, and then celebrating yourself. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. I mentioned like going out for drinks. I don't really like to drink anymore, but going out for drinks or going out for dinner or celebrating with your significant other or celebrating with your family or buying yourself something nice. Another thing that I've really started doing as well is also just saying, okay, I'm going to buy myself this specific thing that I want if I can do this specific thing, right? So specifically saying to myself, I'm setting this goal and here's the prize or here's the celebration that I'm going to allow myself to have, right? And then another piece of this as well is kind of just saying to yourself, like, you have a lot of life to live. Like, yes, tomorrow is not promised. And none of us know what tomorrow may bring, but also recognizing that it is God's timing and not yours, right? And things will happen in their due time, in due season. And so taking time to celebrate how far you have come is so important. And like I said in this message in response to my client, just because something is planned for doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve celebration on its own. Even if you didn't plan for something and it worked out in your favor, shoot, celebrate God. Take the time to acknowledge that all the hard work that you are putting in, that it is paying off in some way, shape, or form, even if you can't see it immediately, because you never know like how it's going to manifest in the future. You never know like what that's going to come out to be in the future and how it's going to benefit you in the long run. Because even at times, like, right, in that, if we go back to 2023 and then come to where we are now in 2025, I'm sure there were difficult times. Like, actually, I know. Baby, I can tell you, I know. There were difficult times going on in between there. And I think sometimes it's also just easier to focus on the negative or the things that are difficult or the things that, are down. And then when you're doing that, it also takes away from you being able to acknowledge the wins or the successes or celebrate yourself. And so one thing that I've done for a very, very long time is I give myself a day, okay? If something happens that makes me upset or something that I don't like or I'm very disappointed about, I give myself a day to be upset about it, to really like truly feel it. And then I try to move on. And then I say, okay, you had your day. It's time to move on. It's time to look forward to what is working. It's time to look at what is working. It's time to look at the positive, look at the upside, look at what is working well. It's time to celebrate how far you have come. It's time to be appreciative of what you have been able to accomplish. And just doing all of these things is going to help you just kind of bask more in your accomplishments. And also just being okay with being right where you are at any given point in time. Now, this one, I'm definitely still working on. I will tell you, I have gotten a lot better, right? And what I mean when I say being okay with being right where you are, it's not always saying, okay, now I'm here. Now what's the next post? Now what's the next post? It is okay to have goals. It is okay to strive for something. And I'm a believer of having something to strive for because I think it gives you purpose in your life. I think it gives you passion. You can live and move and do whatever in your life with purpose and with passion, but don't put this pressure on yourself almost to feel like you have to immediately go after this next thing, or you have to immediately move the goalpost, or you have to immediately do this next thing, right? And just to put some concreteness in it, it's like, okay, I hit $400,000 last year. Boom, immediately now I need to hit $700,000 this year, right? You don't have to do that. Or if you do want to do that, and I'm not gonna lie, I did definitely increase my goal. It's don't put so much pressure on yourself so that you feel like you're bogging yourself down, right? How I kind of treat these things is it's almost like a fun little competition. It's almost like a trial and error. It's honestly just things that is to help you live your life more fully. It's not meant to add pressure. It's not really meant to add stress. It's not meant to take away from who you are. It's not meant to take away from living your life. So if you are someone who finds yourself to be a high achiever, who you consider yourself to have trouble celebrating your achievements, celebrating your successes, celebrating your goals, then definitely what I recommend for you to do is, number one, write down your goals, write down where you are, and then periodically look back and see how far you've come. Number two, implement small little celebration tactics, whatever. That could be dinner, that could be brunch, that could be buying yourself something. It could be whatever you want. Number three, earmark. Like literally say, okay, when I get this, I'm gonna get this. So if you write down a goal, do a little arrow and save the little celebration or the prize you're gonna give yourself. Number four, make sure that you are slowing down. It is fine to have goals. It is fine to aim for the next thing. It's fine to move towards something else, but also recognizing that you don't have to put pressure on yourself to get there. Things take time. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey, and don't always just focus on the destination. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know down in the comments below if you have had trouble with any of this. And don't forget to follow me on my other social media at Sephora Gray Esquire. That's ESQ for short. And I will see you on my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.